it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and I'm back with a new layout to share for Peartree Cutfiles. And I'm using one of the new July release files. It's called Just Chillin, and I'm going to use it with a photo of my little boy and I taken recently. We'd been for a walk around a local National Trust estate. It was a hot day and we'd done loads of walking, and he asked if we could sit down and have a rest. So we literally just sat on a grass veg on the edge of the path, just chilling. So I thought this photo would be perfect with this title. And I've cut my cut file on white smooth cardstock, and I've shrunk it down quite considerably. I think it's actually only about 6 inches wide now, and that's because I'm only using the one photo, and I didn't want my cut file to overpower my photo. I wanted to use it in a way that it complements my photo, and it gives me a nice area to kind of tuck my photo behind. So I've shrunk it down, and I'm going to back it with patterned paper. I'm going to use the Paige Evans Wonders collection for this layout, and I've pulled out the paper that's kind of like a pink and orange ombre effect with that kind of grid pattern on the background. And I've selected a section of the paper that's pink to the left and going into orange on the right. And I'm going to try and translate that onto my layout as well when I do my embellishments. So I'll have pink on the left hand side and orange embellishments on the right hand side. And I felt like this was quite a simple cut file to back. Normally it takes me forever to back cut files. I'm a nightmare with them. But this was quite simple. All the letters are relatively square. So I've just applied wet glue to the back of it and stuck it down to the pattern paper as one piece. And now I'm using my scissors just to trim around all the letters so that it's fully backed. And the only bit I couldn't do with my scissors was the section between the C and the H at the beginning there. And that's easily done. Just pulled out my cutting mat on my craft knife just to cut that centre out. So actually it was quite a simple cut file to back as one single piece. So that's my cut file done, and you can see I'm just going to tuck my photo above it to the right there. I've printed my photo 3x4, and I'm going to add a white border around the edge. I always like to have a white border on my photos. Kind of feels like it gives it a bit of separation from the background. And then I'm going to add a layer of patterned paper behind that. So it's the same paper that I backed my cut file with, just the kind of lighter pink end. And then I'm going to go around and distress all the edges of that. And that's all the pattern paper I'm going to use on this layout really. As you can see on the right of the screen, I've pulled out the Paige Evans Wonders ephemera pack. I've got a couple of packs of it now, so lots of bits left. I've used most of the blue flowers, but I've got loads of the pinks and the oranges left. So I'm going to embellish my page really just with these. I've done a bit of a cheat here. So this pack only has 2 of those green leaves in it, and I love them, they're gorgeous. It needed more. So I've traced them and cut them out from a sheet of basil cardstock. It's the one with all the dots on it. I think it's called like Swiss dots or Dotty Swiss or something. So I'm going to make that stretch this ephemera pack a bit further and cut myself some more. So moving on to my background, I wanted to have a bit of mixed media. So this is a Distress Oxide in Picked Raspberry. I've used the oxide as opposed to the ink because I find it's a lighter, kind of more chalky pastel colour. So I'm just going to apply that with a packaging technique. And you'll see here I pick up the ink instead of the oxide. That could have gone horribly wrong, thankfully I noticed. I'm just extending that out a bit further so that once all my embellishments are on the page, you can still see the mixed media kind of peeking out behind it. And I'm just getting the excess up with a paper towel there. Gonna add some splatters on top of that too. I always love to add splatters to my mixed media. I find it just makes it look a bit more interesting. Again, just applied the ink to some packaging, watered it down, and using a paintbrush. Really simple mixed media. I mean, a lot of that does get covered up with the ephemera, but you do still see it peeking around the edge, which is what I was going for. So you'll see me bring in all that ephemera every now and then just to check I'm happy with where I've got my mixed media. And this is a stencil from Peartree Cutfiles. It's one of the first stencils Marie released. I think it's called Heart Swirl or Swirly Hearts or something like that. And again, I'm using the picked raspberry distress oxide and just a blending brush through the stencil there, just brushing the colour through. And the idea was just to have that around the outside edge of my mixed media. And my area of mixed media was slightly larger than my stencil, so you'll notice I do it in sections, just moving the stencil around. So my stenciling isn't at all the swirly shape of the actual stencil itself. It's sort of bits and pieces here and overlapping in areas where I just wanted to have those hearts kind of in a circle all the way around the outside edge of my mixed media. So what you see me doing now is just using the edge of a thin paintbrush just to kind of curl the edges of the ephemera, so the leaves and the petals. And that's just so that it adds a bit of dimension and texture to it, makes it look a bit more realistic. It's just not so flat on the page. At the moment it looks like I've just plonked it all on the page, so I wanted to do a bit with it. And I almost laugh at myself for this ephemera, because when I first bought it I absolutely hated it, and I did nothing but moan about how big it was, and it was so ridiculously oversized. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to use a lot of it, and then I challenged myself to use it on a couple of layouts, and I've actually fallen in love with it, so much so I've bought more and I'm using it loads, and I really do love it now. So it does go to show that once you get using something, you can learn to love it. So I nearly got rid of the first pack thinking I would never use the larger pieces, and hey ho, I've now bought a second one and I'm using it loads. So I'm quite happy about that actually, because now I really do love it. I'm just going to take some time finishing up curling those edges just for a bit of interest there. And once that's all done, I decided I want to do a bit of a Missy wooden, and I've never done this before, but I've always wanted to, so I thought now was the perfect opportunity. I've pulled out my white gesso and my gelatos, and I'm just using my thumb just to smear some gesso onto them, and then I'm coming in with some colours. I've pulled out some greens for the leaves and some orange and reds for the flowers. I just wanted to add a bit more kind of interest to them. They're all one colour, they were all, I'm not going to say dull because they weren't dull, but I just wanted a bit more to them, make it look a bit more realistic. So just adding a smudge of white gesso, and then I'm just directly using my gelatos on the ephemera, mixing my, putting my thumb in a tiny bit of water I've got in that bowl there, and then just sort of smearing the gelatos on. You can't really notice it too much on the video, hopefully you'll see it a bit more in the close-ups, but it just adds a bit more and kind of elevates the ephemera a bit. So don't really worry too much about doing it on the pinks, it was just the oranges and reds I wanted to do it on, and obviously the green leaves, and I'm much happier with how they look now. So now I'm actually going to commit, finally. What are we, 9 minutes in, and I'm finally sticking something to my page. I've added a layer of craft foam behind my photo. I always like to raise my photo up to just kind of draw your eye to it a bit more. It brings some dimension onto the page. And I'm going to do the same thing with my cut file. I've just cut thin strips of this adhesive foam and just layering it behind my photo there. Behind my cut file. And then I'll just use some wet glue to stick that down in a minute. And this is a really quick and simple way to do this. I could use foam pads, but they're a pain in the backside sometimes trying to get all the backings off. So cutting this craft foam into strips is so much easier for things like cut files. And obviously my photo is a larger area, so I've just used double-sided tape for that. And now we're finally getting things stuck down. So I'm not worrying about sticking the word just down, because that's actually going to sit kind of half over my photo and my flowers, so they've got a bit of texture behind them. Those flowers, I've raised the petals up, I've curled them, so I'm not going to stick the word just down at all, just the word chilling. And then I've added I've got some, this is adhesive foam tape, just adding a bit behind each of the ephemera, just in the centre, and then I'm leaving the edges kind of free to curl up and bend up, just to bring in some more dimension. So that's the main bulk of my layout complete and all stuck in place, and now I just want to bring in a few smaller elements. So these butterflies are fussy cut from one of the pattern papers from the Wonders collection. It's my favourite paper in the whole collection. I could just fussy cut these butterflies all day long. So again, I'm sticking with the pinks and oranges, and I've added 2 to the top left of my photo. At the moment I've just got one small orange one to the bottom right, but I do come in, I think, in a minute and add another pink one. I've tried to get that little bee, it's a pink and orange bee in the ephemera pack, tried to get him on, but because I'd put the butterflies there, there wasn't a natural place for it, so he didn't make it. But I do add a couple of Peartree pieces. These are the original pink pack. I think it was called like Think Pink maybe, or Pretty in Pink, I can't remember. Don't tell Marie. I will put a link in the description box below for you. I've used 2 of the glitter ones, so one either side of my layout, kind of tucked them underneath my flowers a little bit. And now I'm coming in with some Nouveau drops. So I've got a pink one that is called Carnation Pink, or is it Carnation? Yes, it is Carnation Pink. And then an orange one that is called Ripened Pumpkin. And I've just added a couple of dots around my layout. And then I felt like that top right hand corner needed something there just to balance the page out a bit. It was looking a bit empty. So I've pulled out one of the pink birds from the chipboard sheet and stuck him up there. And now I'm coming in with that pink butterfly to the bottom right there. I've used a larger one just to balance the page out. And that is me done. So thank you very, very much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this and you can draw some inspiration from it. I have got plenty of close-ups for you, and in the description box below I will leave a link to the Peartree Cutfiles website, the Facebook group. If you're not a member, do head over and join, and I'll also leave a link to the Peartree pieces I've used and also the Peartree stencil. I've got a bit of everything on my layout today. So thanks very much for joining me, and I shall see you next time.